Toyota isn't dumb, right? And perhaps I would argue that they're doing it on purpose. They want you to have a vehicle that is going to need a little bit more attention, a little bit more TLC, a little bit more repairs, and perhaps replacement sooner than later. Toyota dealers were among the very worst when it comes to deploying greedy tactics and charging ADMs, additional dealer markups, over MSRP on their desirable trims. Like the TRD Pros, those were often coming at a $10,000 or more markup over sticker price, which is absolutely sickening. And I understand it's a harsh way to put it, but you can't help but feel like all of these new generation Toyotas just feel like a castrated version of its previous self. This here is not a Land Cruiser. This here does not deserve that nameplate. And this right here is the biggest indicator that Toyota has shifted to a little bit more of a quantity over quality concept, right? Now manufacturing the Toyota Tacoma entirely out of Mexico. Price tags like this, heaven forbid you have a family, you want to go get a nice full-size SUV, get ready to refinance your house in order to afford it. $87,202 for this Toyota Sequoia Capstone. It just has lost all of its drama. I think that's the best way to put it, right? Toyota used to stimulate your senses, right? It was a raw, visceral driving experience, but not anymore. All of the new generation Toyotas, they've lost the drama. Yeah, just over $81,000 for this 1794 Crew Max. Absolutely insane. Take a look at the worldwide market, for instance, right? They're not doing this around the world. They're only doing it within the United States. Magically, Toyota only cares about the environment within the United States? No, it's a political movement that they're leaning into in order to cash in on it. That's all they did, right? They're not doing this all around the world. They're still producing diesel options in other places of the world, right? So it's not so much about that, it's more about how much profit can they make. Hey YouTube, Untamed here. Toyota has the largest debt of any company in the entire world. With that said, it should come as no surprise that the company is making pretty drastic changes in order to get out of that debt. They're chasing green credits, they're chasing government handouts, and they're pumping out these garbage throwaway vehicles in order to maximize their profit margins. They've hiked up price tags tremendously across the board, across the lineup, and they're just continuously pumping out these vehicles with these tiny little engines, strapping turbos to it, strapping battery packs to it. These are vehicles that no true Toyota enthusiast ever wanted or ever asked for. In today's video, I'm going to peel back the layers of the onion and really highlight the number of reasons as to why Toyota has completely fumbled the bag, so stick with me. Let's talk about the Toyota Tacoma first. Outsourced entirely to Mexico, allowing a little bit more room and a little bit more production for the Toyota Tundra and the Sequoia out of San Antonio, Texas. We'll talk more about that because I know a lot of you like to beat your chest and claim, hey, best sales for the Toyota Tundra. Well, they're pumping out a lot more of those pieces of crap. So we'll talk more about those figures here in a second. But the Tacoma, built entirely out of Mexico, Toyota saved over 80% when it comes to labor costs in producing this vehicle comparatively to producing it out of Texas there. So they save a ton of money, all while hiking up the price tag 20 to 25% across the entire lineup, across all the trims. And well, you can kind of get an idea of what you see behind me here. They're not selling them. They're not selling them with $6,000 to $9,000 off discounts. And I can tell you what, there is no shortage of Toyota Tacomas out there right now. You can get any trim you'd like with a pretty substantial discount and incentivized interest rate. So we have a whole lineup right here, some more out front of this dealership, a couple more tucked back here, a few more down there. The list goes on and on with these vehicles. I mean, this is not indicative of my local dealership. This is absolutely everywhere. I live in Wyoming, for Pete's sake. People like having trucks, and even here in Wyoming, they can't sell the Toyota Tacoma or the Toyota Tundra down there. And the Land Cruisers are out front, the 4Runners, even they, brand new 4Runners, are not selling. Let me show you here real quickly just a few different trimmed examples. This is the most affordable one on the lot. This is an SR5. SR5, kind of a base model, example cloth interior. SR5, and look at that, still over $42,000. It wasn't that long ago that that vehicle right there was between 30 and 35 grand. But here we are, look how times have changed. TRD Off-Road, let me show you how much they want for this. So, $46,500 TRD Off-Road non-hybrid. So this does not have the iForce Max. This one right here, of course, does have it. So 2.4 liter 4-cylinder underneath the hood, turbocharged 4-banger with the battery pack strapped to it. And look at that, over $54,000 freaking dollars for this TRD Off-Road Tacoma. Pretty sickening. Let me show you another, well, this is a TRD Sport, but another non-iForce Max example. Look at that, dang near $53,000 for this TRD Sport. Again, not even sporting the iForce Max. Kind of sad, huh? And I can hear it now, the few Toyota fanboys out there already starting to beat their chest saying, hey, we got the best selling mid-size pickup truck. You damn well better, because Toyota massively overproduces this vehicle and massively outproduces any of its competition by a long shot. Way more than the Chevy Colorado, way more than the Ford Ranger, the Nissan Frontier, all the other mid-sized pickup trucks. Well, they're a fraction of the production numbers comparatively to the rest of their entire lineups, right? Whereas with Toyota Tacomas, historically speaking, the brand has generally pumped out between 225 and 250,000 units per year. Back in 2024, this last year, they sold 192,000 units. And the year previous to that, 232,000. So roughly an 18% drop in sales of the Toyota Tacoma here. And for fun, I wanted to show you the most expensive Toyota Tacoma on the lot. It is this Toyota Tacoma Limited, right? So we've got a limited example here, but look at that, $58,569 for this thing. Absolutely insane. You know, Toyota enthusiasts, they buy Toyotas for 3 reasons. I beat it to death on the channel, but I mean it, right? They buy them for reliability, simplicity, and affordability. All 3 of those things have gone totally out the window with Toyota. And don't even get me started on this hunk of shit behind me. This is that Toyota Tundra here, brand new in 2022, the redesigned. Like the Toyota Tacoma, they went away from a naturally aspirated platform. They used to have a 3.5 liter naturally aspirated V6, and that Tacoma over there, that was quite bulletproof, right? I mean, people bought that because they had tremendous peace of mind in that platform. Same goes for the Tundra. They used to have a naturally aspirated V8, but now this little guy right here behind me has a twin turbo 3.5 liter V6 underneath the hood. And well, a few examples down this lineup will sport the iForce Max, the hybridized twin turbo V6. No true Toyota enthusiast ever wanted this. No true Toyota enthusiast will look at the spec sheet and look at the horsepower and torque numbers and brag about the brochure to their friends. They bought it for reliability and simplicity and that affordability. This ain't it. Here's a breakdown of the sourcing and assembly of the Toyota Tundra here. So, final assembly point, still built out of San Antonio, Texas, just like the Toyota Sequoia. As I look at the price tags of each of these Toyota Tundras here, it becomes very clear and apparent as to why so many are sitting on dealership lots and why so many are being discounted $8,000 to $12,000 off MSRP. That's because they're wildly overpriced for what you're getting here, right? Not to mention, if you're going to be making those monthly payments over 60 months, 72 months, you're easily looking at anywhere from $1,400 to $1,900 per month. Let me just show you real quickly here. So here we have a 2025 Toyota Tundra Limited with a 6.5 foot bed, but look at that price tag, still over $65,000. This one does not even sport the iForce Max with the hybridized platform underneath the hood. Let me show you a couple more. So this right here, we got an SR5. This has to be the most affordable on this entire lot, I'd imagine. Let me show you. And even this one, an SR5 Toyota Tundra, just under $58,000. 5.5 foot bed. And well, one of these 1794s over here, or Platinums, is going to be the most expensive with the iForce Max. Probably this one. This one looks to have the factory lift kit from Toyota. Let's check this one out. Probably right around 80 grand. Yep. Yeah, just over $81,000 for this 1794 Crew Max. Absolutely insane. And for those of you who don't know, I actually owned a 2023 Toyota Tundra TRD Pro. I have a lot of faith in Toyota, and I still do, which is why I'm so critical of the brand. And I know a lot of you won't understand that, but I'm hopeful that the brand will make some positive course corrections and get back to their roots, get back to their core values as a company, because I do firmly believe that they've distanced themselves tremendously from what their original brand values have been. Having spent dang near $75,000 for my Tundra TRD Pro back in 2023, I just felt largely underwhelmed for what I got. I previously had a 2021 Tundra TRD Pro, my Lunar Rock one, with the naturally aspirated V8. I spent $54,000 for that back in 2021. That MSRP was 54 grand. Just 1 year after that, they hiked it up $17,000, $18,000 more than that for the new generation here. So when you step inside of it and you're surrounded by the whole sea of plastic, you have a terrible turn radius, you turn on the vehicle, it just kind of buzzes to life with the hybridized iForce Max. It just has lost all of its drama. I think that's the best way to put it, right? Toyota used to stimulate your senses, right? It was a raw, visceral driving experience, but not anymore. All of the new generation Toyotas, they've lost the drama. And I firmly stand by that. The new Land Cruiser, the Tacoma, the Tundra, the 4Runner, the Sequoia, you name it, they've all lost the drama. And well, you guessed it, you can't talk about the Toyota Tundra without referencing, of course, the large safety recall on the main crankshaft bearing, right? According to Toyota, some debris was left in the engines during the production of many of their vehicles, and because of that, they had to issue that large safety recall affecting so many of these units because it ultimately led to engine failure, right? Pretty pathetic. It doesn't take a genius to know this, but ask any mechanic. My brother happens to be a master mechanic, and well, he'll be quick to tell you or anybody that working on a smaller displacement 2.4 liter turbocharged engine is going to be a little bit more complex, and the longevity is not going to be as good as a naturally aspirated V6. And well, history has already proven that at this point. What say you? Because what are you getting with a turbocharged platform, especially a tiny 4-cylinder turbocharged platform, still moving a pretty large chunk of metal here, right? You're overstressing and overworking that motor constantly in order to develop that peak power that you're going to be getting on day-to-day use, right? So you're constantly overstressing it. It's like a wind-up toy. Whereas with a larger displacement motor, a naturally aspirated displacement motor, you're not doing that. You're not winding it up constantly and spooling up a turbo to get the power out of it. So a little bit more stress involved with these engines. But Toyota isn't dumb, right? And perhaps I would argue that they're doing it on purpose. They want you to have a vehicle that is going to need a little bit more attention, a little bit more TLC, a little bit more repairs, and perhaps replacement sooner than later. Whereas Toyotas of the past, you can drive them for 15, 20 plus years with minimal headache, right? But that isn't too profitable for the company. It's great when it comes to that brand recognition and reliability. That's great, and it brings people constantly back to the brand, which has made Toyota successful. However, Toyota's kind of cashing in on the domestic vehicle manufacturer mantra, if you will, the throwaway vehicles. If you can pump out a vehicle every 3 to 5 years and have your consumer want to trade it in and replace it every 3 to 5 years, well, that's constant flow of inventory turnover, right? And that means more repairs, more time in the service bay, and that is a huge profit point for many dealerships and vehicle manufacturers alike. So they want you to swap out these vehicles every 5 years. And this right here is the biggest indicator that Toyota has shifted to a little bit more of a quantity over quality concept, right? Now manufacturing the Toyota Tacoma entirely out of Mexico. And that is not good for the brand. And let's face it, the senior executive leadership team here within Toyota North America has been very political driven, unfortunately, in recent years. I mean, them following and leaning entirely into the whole green energy movement is a prime example of that, right? It just became this trendy political movement that they jumped on and really latched onto. And well, you can tell they put all their eggs in that basket. Having a hybridized platform makes a lot of sense in a Toyota RAV4. It makes a lot of sense, of course, in a Toyota Prius, Camry, but it does not make much sense in the larger SUVs and larger trucks here, right? The Tundra, the Tacoma, the Land Cruiser, the 4Runner. No, keep that nonsense out of it. Just give us that reliable, simplistic, and affordable option. That's all Toyota enthusiasts ever wanted. That's all they ever needed. But instead, by them chasing the green credits, they're getting government subsidies, government handouts, right? So by them just producing these vehicles with the smaller displacement motor and hybridizing everything, they get carbon credits. They get those, right? No matter what, they're going to get paid out for that. That's a part of Toyota wanting to get out of debt, right? I mean, being able to cash in on that while the getting's good here within the United States, that's what they did, and they totally leaned into it. Obviously, with the current administration in now and lessening the EPA regulations and restrictions, that's not going to be so beneficial for Toyota to have made that move. And it's a shame that they jumped all in on it because they have lost a ton of their loyal Toyota enthusiasts. So regardless of how well these new hybridized SUVs and trucks sold, they were still cashing in tremendously. Take a look at the worldwide market, for instance, right? They're not doing this around the world. They're only doing it within the United States. Magically, Toyota only cares about the environment within the United States? No, it's a political movement that they're leaning into in order to cash in on it. That's all they did, right? They're not doing this all around the world. They're still producing diesel options in other places of the world, right? So it's not so much about that, it's more about how much profit can they make. And unfortunately, it seems as though leadership here within Toyota North America has spent far too much time out of California and Washington State. They might just believe that everybody out there, every single Toyota enthusiast, also has blue hair and puts preferred pronouns in their signature block. Hate to break it to you, Toyota. No, that's not the case. If they hadn't believed that, maybe they wouldn't have gotten rid of the 5.7 liter V8 that they had in the Land Cruiser previously. But now we get this turbocharged four-banger, hybridized four-banger with a pretty lackluster cargo space because they got to make room for that battery pack behind it. This here is not a Land Cruiser. This here does not deserve that nameplate. Let's face it, Toyota was clearly catering to this audience. They were catering to this audience right here when producing this vehicle and when producing those vehicles over here. And just to be clear, these two audiences, we can get along just fine. but let's not blur the lines between what we actually want out of our vehicles. Taxi! Let's check out this mustard yellow Toyota Prius. Look at that, $37,000. I actually kind of like this thing, if I'm being honest with you guys. I actually like the uniqueness of that. Obviously, you're going to see a bunch of these rolling around downtown New York, of course, picking people up, but it does look pretty sleek. And I understand it's a harsh way to put it, but you can't help but feel like all of these new generation Toyotas just feel like a castrated version of its previous self, right? And I'm not just beating up on Toyota to beat up on them. I'm trying a lot of these out. I'm buying a lot of these vehicles because I do have faith in them. I bought that Tundra TRD Pro because I wanted to try it before I started speaking so negatively on it. Same goes with the Sequoia. I owned a ice cap white Sequoia TRD Pro for a while. You know, there's a lot to like, but there's more to dislike, if I'm being honest with you. It's just a very synthetic driving experience. It does not feel like a Toyota. I mean, you gotta admit, it is quite telling that the brand new 6th generation Toyota 4Runner is now just hitting dealership lots, and immediately, they're just sitting. They're sitting, they're not flying off the shelf like Toyota thought they would. And historically speaking, when they introduced all previous generation 4Runners, they did fly off the shelf, and they flew off quickly, right? But people are just not wildly excited about it. Again, we have the same 2.4 liter 4-cylinder hybridized option in this one with the iForce Max. You can get it without it. This one happens to be a TRD off-road. There you have it. That's the part of the problem right there. $55,000 for this TRD off-road hybrid. No thank you. But seriously, don't take it from me. Do yourself a favor, open up the interwebs and do a quick Google search on 2024 Toyota 4Runners for sale. See how much they want for those vehicles now that they're used, now that they're gone, and now that truly is the last of the reliable, super robust examples of the 4Runner. I would argue the last true 4Runner that we'll have for a while. That 4-liter naturally aspirated V6 and a 5th generation 4Runner is bulletproof. Sure, it's pretty lackluster when it comes to the actual power delivery of the vehicle, but again, that's not why people buy Toyotas. And look at those price tags. They're shooting up for good reason, because people don't want this. People would much rather pay more for a previous generation 4Runner comparatively to a brand new one, which is pretty sad and quite telling. The same exact thing can be said, of course, for the Toyota Sequoia, the Tundra, the Tacoma, and the Land Cruiser, especially over there, right? Gosh, don't even look at the 2021 Toyota Land Cruiser prices. They're sickening almost by how much people are selling them for, because that truly is 100% the last real Land Cruiser that we'll ever get. We're currently seeing the highest levels of auto loan delinquencies within the United States, the highest that we've seen since 08 and 09 recession, and we're expected to pass it here by the end of 2025. And it's largely thanks to vehicles like this, right? Price tags like this. Heaven forbid you have a family, you want to go get a nice full-size SUV, get ready to refinance your house in order to afford it. $87,202 for this Toyota Sequoia capstone. Absolutely absurd. The only style points for the Land Cruiser here and the 6th generation 4Runner is they are still built entirely out of Japan. So I would expect the fit and finish to be exceptional in this. I would expect the panel gaps to be perfect in this, because generally speaking, vehicles coming out of Japan are just that. You know, they really are exceptional in that regard. Just imagine if you could get this Land Cruiser with that 4-liter naturally aspirated V6 at very least in it, right? The previous generation 4Runner engine. What if you can get that, right? And I can't even fathom getting a 5.7 liter V8 underneath the hood. I'd be all about it. And I personally really like the GR Corollas here. I think they look awesome. I love the wide fender flares, especially out back. They're an aggressive little car, and I bet they're a blast to drive. I would love to drive one day. So I'm a fan, and I feel like the price tag isn't totally unreasonable. Maybe let me know if you think I am being wrong with that, but 44 grand for this pretty sweet hot hatch. You tell me what you think. So all that to say, I really do believe that there are great vehicle options still being produced by Toyota, but I do feel like they've crossed the lines when it comes to their target demographics and their target audiences for certain vehicles, especially within the SUV and truck segment. They've totally missed. I guess while we're talking about Toyota, I think they did a very, very poor job at reeling in their dealerships during the last few years, especially during the pandemic, right? Toyota dealers were among the very worst when it comes to deploying greedy tactics and charging ADMs, additional dealer markups, over MSRP on their desirable trims. Like the TRD Pros, those were often coming at a $10,000 or more markup over sticker price, which is absolutely sickening. And the way dealers treated their loyal customers, they just flicked them to the curb, and I absolutely hated that. So let me know if you had a negative experience with a Toyota dealership throughout the last few years. I'd be curious to hear it. All right, I'll wrap up the video there, guys. I do firmly believe that Toyota is out of touch. They're out of touch with their true Toyota enthusiasts, but the unfortunate bit is, I think they're aware. I think they're aware of that, and they don't care at this point because they see what Ford has done. They see what GM, Chevy, what they've done within the United States. They pump out these throwaway vehicles. They sell because they look good, they're flashy, they're new, they're exciting, but the quality isn't there. And well, Toyota's kind of following that concept at this point. They can pump out so many vehicles and sell them and have people trade them in every so often. That just might get them out of debt. That just might increase their profit margin. And that's the saddening bit to me. They're no longer producing these vehicles to last forever. That's abundantly clear. I think a lot of us can agree on that. So let me know what your thoughts are. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune into these videos. If you find any value in it whatsoever, I do respectfully request that you please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Until next time.